As we're learning incredible new details this hour about the circumstances surrounding his death. His front door open, scattered pills on the bathroom countertop, one dog in the closet, two still alive on the property.
Now to new details in the investigation into the death of Gene Hackman, who received an emotional tribute at last night's Oscars just days after he and his wife were found dead under suspicious circumstances.
When news broke about Gene Hackman's passing, it sent shockwaves through Hollywood and beyond. But what truly caught everyone's attention was Clint Eastwood's rare and emotional tribute, a moment that felt like the last chapter of a story that spanned decades. Clint, famously reserved, known for his stoic demeanor both on screen and off, surprised everyone with his heartfelt words. There was no finer actor than Gene. Intense and instinctive, never a false note. He was also a dear friend whom I will miss very much. These weren't just words. They were a window into a relationship that had always been shrouded in mystery, a bond forged not just by their work, but by the unspoken understanding between two men who had navigated the highs and lows of Hollywood's golden age.
What was it like being on the set with Gene Hackman?
Well, Gene, people ask all the time, who's the best actor, who's the biggest star, who's the blah, blah, blah. Mm-hmm. The line's long for the great actors I've been able to work with, really is. But I would say probably Gene was the best actor that I'd ever worked with.
Clint Eastwood and Gene Hackman weren't the kind of friends you'd see sharing casual laughs at award shows or vacationing together in some picturesque locale. Their friendship was quieter, built on mutual respect and a connection that didn't need constant acknowledgement. These were two men who spoke the language of cinema fluently, who understood what it meant to carry the weight of a scene, to leave everything on the screen. And it was that mutual understanding that made their collaboration on Unforgiven so iconic.
I had the pleasure of working alongside Gene on two films, Unforgiven and Under Suspicion. And like everyone who's ever shared a scene with him, I learned he was a generous performer and a man whose gifts elevated everyone's work.
Clint was 62 when he directed and starred in Unforgiven, a film that would redefine the Western genre and bring him his first Academy Award for Best Director. Gene, at the same age, played the film's menacing sheriff, Little Bill Daggett, a performance so layered and intense, it earned him an Oscar for Best Supporting Actor. Together, they created a cinematic masterpiece that was as much about the human condition as it was about bullets and cowboy hats. But what most people don't know is the behind-the-scenes dynamic between Clint and Gene, a relationship that was as charged as the film itself.
He received 2 Oscars, but more importantly, he won the hearts of film lovers all over the world. Gene always said, I don't think about legacy. I just hope people remember me as someone who tried to do good work.
There were tensions on set, creative clashes that, in retrospect, only added to the authenticity of their performances. Clint, known for his efficiency and no-nonsense approach to directing, would often shoot scenes in 1 or 2 takes, trusting his actors to deliver the goods. Gene, ever the perfectionist, sometimes pushed back, wanting more time to explore the nuances of a scene. They argued, sure, but it was never personal. Their clashes stemmed from the same place, an unrelenting commitment to the craft. And when the cameras rolled, their chemistry was undeniable. Clint's quiet intensity and Gene's explosive energy created a dynamic that crackled with tension, elevating every scene they shared.
So I think I speak for us all when I say, Gene, you'll be remembered for that and for so much more. Rest in peace, my friend.
But their connection went beyond the set of Unforgiven. Clint once described Gene as someone who didn't need to be liked, a rare quality in an industry built on charm and charisma. Gene's ability to inhabit roles with complete authenticity, his willingness to embrace the darker, more complex aspects of human nature, was something Clint deeply admired. In a world where so many actors played it safe, Gene took risks. He wasn't afraid to be abrasive or unlikable if it served the character. Clint saw that as the mark of a true artist, someone who understood that the craft was never about the actor, but always about the story. Their friendship was marked by long silences and occasional letters. Gene, who famously avoided the trappings of modern technology, preferred the old-fashioned method of handwritten correspondence. Over the years, Clint received several letters from Gene, some filled with witty observations about Hollywood, others reflecting on the challenges of aging in an industry that worships youth. Clint rarely wrote back. He was more of a phone call guy, but he kept every letter. In interviews, Clint often mentioned how much he respected Gene's decision to step away from acting in 2004, a move that many saw as a quiet retreat, but Clint understood as an act of integrity.
And here in Santa Fe, Sheriff's Department officials here working behind me have yet another high-profile case on their hands. Aaron, you and I covered at length the Alec Baldwin case, that fatal shooting on the set of the movie Rust. This is the same investigative team that worked that case.
It's that respect, that deep understanding of who Gene was as a person and an artist that made Clint's tribute so impactful. He didn't just lose a colleague, he lost a kindred spirit, someone who had walked the same path and faced the same struggles. For Clint, Gene was more than an actor. He was a mirror, reflecting the complexities of life lived in the spotlight, but always yearning for something deeper, something more meaningful. Clint's insights into Gene's character paint a picture of a man who is both deeply private and profoundly generous. On the set of Unforgiven, Gene was known to sketch during downtime, creating intricate drawings that he sometimes gifted to his co-stars. Frances Fisher, who played Strawberry Alice in the film, still treasures the drawing Gene gave her, a portrait of her character that he had meticulously crafted between takes. It's a small but telling detail, a glimpse into the mind of a man who was always observing, always creating, even when the cameras weren't rolling.
Plural in order to get that kind of mummification. One of the ways of figuring this out, obviously, is from the scene investigation to find out when did they last pick up the mail, when did they last check in with relatives, phone calls, those kind of things, because people generally will communicate with others during the course of their time. But then you also can use other guides.
Morgan Freeman, another Unforgiven co-star, once said that working with Gene was like attending a masterclass in acting. He was incredibly gifted, Morgan wrote in his tribute to Gene. One of the personal highlights of my career was bringing the French film Under Suspicion to life with the incredibly gifted Gene Hackman. Clint echoed those sentiments, often marveling at Gene's ability to convey so much with so little. He could do more with a look than most actors could with a page of dialogue, Clint once said. That's not something you can teach. That's just who he was. The legacy of Clint and Gene's friendship isn't just in the films they made or the awards they won. It's in the lessons they imparted to each other, the ways they pushed each other to be better, even when it wasn't easy. Clint has often credited Gene with teaching him to embrace the darker aspects of storytelling, to go beyond the surface and explore the complexities of human nature. And Gene, in turn, admired Clint's ability to find beauty in simplicity, to tell stories that resonated with audiences without ever feeling contrived.
As Hollywood gets ready to honor its best at the Academy Awards this weekend, there are still unanswered questions about the death of two-time Oscar winner Gene Hackman and his wife. The couple was found this week in their New Mexico home. On Friday, investigators ruled out carbon monoxide poisoning and revealed other clues that may lead them to determine what did happen.
Their collaboration on Unforgiven was a turning point for both men, a moment when they realized that their best work came not from playing to their strengths, but from challenging them. For Clint, it was about stepping out of the shadow of his iconic cowboy image and embracing the moral ambiguity of William Money. For Gene, it was about finding the humanity in a character as ruthless as Little Bill. Together, they created a film that was both a love letter to the Western genre and a critique of its myths, a story that resonated with audiences because it felt real. As Clint reflected on their time together, he often spoke about the lessons he learned from Gene, not just about acting, but about life. Gene knew how to live. Gene knew how to live, Clint said in an interview a few years ago. He didn't get caught up in the noise. He found what mattered to him and stuck with it. That ability to tune out the distractions and focus on what truly mattered is something Clint has tried to emulate in his own life, especially as he's grown older.
Jerika, good evening to you. As well known as Gene Hackman was, neighbors tell us that he and his wife led intensely private lives here in Santa Fe, their longtime home. And while we've been learning more about this case, there is still so much we don't know.
The impact of Gene's passing on the film industry is immeasurable. For actors and filmmakers alike, he was a beacon of authenticity, someone who reminded them that the craft was always more important than the accolades. Clint has often said that Gene's greatest gift to cinema was his honesty, his refusal to compromise or take shortcuts. He didn't just act, Clint once said, he inhabited, and that's why people will remember him. As Clint continues to process the loss of his friend, he's been revisiting some of their old letters, finding solace in the words they shared and the memories they created. In those letters, there's a recurring meme, an acknowledgement of the passage of time and the inevitability of change. "We've had a good run," Gene wrote in one of his last letters to Clint, and maybe that's enough. For Clint, those words are both a comfort and a challenge, a reminder that while their time together may have ended, the stories they told and the bond they shared will endure.
On Wednesday, February 26, 2025, at approximately 1:45 p.m., Santa Fe County Sheriff's deputies were dispatched to 1425 Old Sunset Trail, where Gene Hackman, 95, and his wife Betsy Arakawa, 65, and a dog were found deceased.
Clint's reflections on their friendship are a testament to the power of connection, even in an industry as transient as Hollywood. In a world where relationships often feel fleeting, Clint and Gene's bond was a rare constant, a partnership built on mutual respect, creative collaboration, and the unspoken understanding that comes from sharing a lifetime of experiences. Their friendship wasn't perfect, but it was real, and that's what makes it so enduring. As Clint looks to the future, he's determined to honor Gene's legacy in the best way he knows how, by continuing to tell stories that matter, stories that challenge audiences and push the boundaries of what cinema can be. And in every frame, in every quiet moment of reflection, Gene's presence will be felt, a reminder of the friendship that shaped two of Hollywood's greatest legends. But as Clint sat with these memories, one lingering question remained. What truly happened in those final days? How did a man as strong and resolute as Gene Hackman suddenly vanish from the world he once commanded? And with that thought, we turn to the mystery surrounding his departure, a story that continues to unravel, leaving behind more questions than answers.
Due to the unusual circumstances of two decedents in the residence, there was a concern for scene safety. Santa Fe City fire personnel and the New Mexico Gas Company were requested to the scene to test for carbon monoxide or other foreign elements. The scene was deemed safe, and approximately 9:30 p.m.
The story of Gene Hackman's passing took an unexpected turn when details of the investigation began to emerge. It wasn't just the quiet departure of a Hollywood legend that caught attention. It was the strange, almost haunting circumstances surrounding his last days. What really happened in that secluded Santa Fe home? How could a man with such a commanding presence on and off the screen end his days in a way that left so many questions unanswered? The mystery has only deepened with each new detail, and the answers, if they ever come, may completely change how we remember this iconic figure.
From this search warrant, there were 2 green in color cell phones, 2 bottles of medication, 1 bottle of over-the-counter Tylenol, my request medical records, and a 2025 monthly planner calendar. Those items were secured from the residence for evidentiary purposes.
Gene's retreat from the public eye wasn't just a retirement. It was a complete withdrawal. He and his wife, Betsy Arakawa, lived a life of near total privacy in their New Mexico home, tucked away in a gated community where even their neighbors barely caught a glimpse of them. Gene, the larger-than-life actor who had once commanded the screen as Lex Luthor and Popeye Doyle, seemed to have traded Hollywood's bright lights for the shadows of a quiet life. But was it really peace he sought, or was there something else going on in those final years? That's the question investigators are grappling with now. What's truly unsettling is how Gene and Betsy were discovered. Neighbors had reportedly grown concerned after not seeing any activity around the house for weeks. When authorities finally entered the home, what they found was both puzzling and tragic. Gene and Betsy were found in separate rooms, with one of their dogs also lifeless nearby. 2 other dogs, however, were alive, adding another layer of complexity to the scene. The immediate assumption was something accidental, perhaps a gas leak or another household issue, but as details trickled out, that theory began to crumble.
Well, first of all, anytime you have 2 bodies deceased at the same place at the same time, that in and of itself is suspicious. And then, of course, the dog also being deceased added to that suspicion. And then the pills being found scattered about. The whole situation really is quite alarming.
Let's start with the timeline. Gene's pacemaker provided a crucial clue, recording its last activity on February 17, 9 days before their bodies were found. This detail suggests that Gene may have fallen or collapsed suddenly. But here's where things get murky. Betsy was discovered in the bathroom near a bottle of scattered pills, raising questions about what happened in the hours or days after Gene's pacemaker stopped. Did she try to help him and then succumb to her own complications, or was something else at play? The prescription pills found near her body have sparked rampant speculation, with some wondering if they point to an act of desperation or if they were simply part of her daily routine. No one knows for sure, and investigators are keeping their findings close to the chest.
The reason the digital information from both of their cell phones is so important, Natasha, is because cell phones can track movement. And that's what they are going to look into. When did those cell phones cease not only to be used, but cease to move?
Adding to the mystery is the condition of the home itself. When authorities arrived, they noted that the door was unlocked and slightly ajar, but there were no signs of forced entry or a struggle. The house wasn't ransacked, and nothing appeared to be missing, ruling out the possibility of an outside disturbance. Yet, the unlocked door raises its own set of questions. Was it carelessness, or could it indicate that someone else had been there? Someone who left without a trace? The neighbors, who described Gene and Betsy as reclusive but kind, hadn't noticed anything unusual in the days leading up to the discovery. But then again, how much can you notice about people who rarely left their home? One of the most chilling details comes from the condition of their German Shepherd found lifeless in a closet near Betsy's body. The dog's passing has led to even more speculation, with some suggesting it might hold the key to understanding what happened. Could the dog's condition point to environmental factors like a toxic substance in the home? Or does it suggest a heartbreaking timeline where the dog was left without food or water for days? 2 other dogs were found alive, but their survival only deepens the mystery. Why would one dog perish while the others lived? Was it a matter of access to resources, or is there something more sinister lurking beneath the surface?
Since Gene Hackman's body was discovered this morning, while authorities have ruled out some scenarios, they still don't know what happened to Hackman and his wife.
Carbon monoxide poisoning was one of the earliest theories floated by investigators, but it was quickly ruled out. Both the local fire department and the New Mexico Gas Company conducted thorough tests and found no evidence of a leak. This revelation only adds to the enigma. If it wasn't a gas leak, what could have caused 2 people and a dog to fall in such a short span of time? And why were there no visible signs of distress or injury on either Gene or Betsy's?
Mean for certain that carbon monoxide as the cause of can be ruled out. In certain situations, especially when it comes to delayed discovery, postmortem carbon monoxide levels can be unreliable in general.
The pills found near Betsy have become a focal point of the investigation. According to sources, the medications included thyroid treatment, blood pressure tablets, and over-the-counter pain relievers. None of these would typically be considered dangerous, but their presence has fueled speculation about whether they were taken in a way that wasn't intended. Was it an accidental mishap, or could it point to something more deliberate? The lack of immediate answers has only intensified public curiosity, with fans and commentators alike dissecting every available detail. Even Gene's pacemaker, which initially seemed like a straightforward clue, has raised its own set of questions. A prominent forensic pathologist suggested that the pacemaker's data could reveal an abnormal pulse rate leading up to its last recorded activity. If Gene had a sudden cardiac event, as some believe, it might explain his collapse. But why didn't Betsy call for help? Was she incapacitated in some way, or was there something else preventing her from reaching out? The absence of a phone call from their home during that critical period is one of the most puzzling aspects of the case.
Yeah, so it's very difficult to put a timeline together, even with the help of the Office of the Medical Investigator, just based on their body and other evidence on the body. It appears several days, possibly even up to a couple weeks.
Theories about their final moments range from the tragic to the bizarre. Some believe that Gene's health may have been deteriorating in ways the public didn't know, and Betsy, overwhelmed by the situation, may have faced her own crisis. Others suggest that the couple's reclusive lifestyle contributed to the tragedy, with no one around to notice that something was wrong until it was too late. And then there are those who can't help but wonder if there's an element of the unexplained, a piece of the puzzle that hasn't yet come to light. As investigators continue their work, the public's reaction has been a mix of shock, sadness, and curiosity. Gene Hackman was more than just an actor. He was a cultural icon, a man whose performances left an indelible mark on cinema. His passing has prompted an outpouring of tributes from fans and colleagues alike, but it has also sparked a wave of questions that no one seems able to answer. How could someone so larger than life leave behind a story so incomplete? And what does it say about the fleeting nature of even the most enduring legacies?
Right now, we don't. Of course, we executed the search warrant yesterday, starting on the evening of the 26th, all into yesterday afternoon. And one of our investigators attended the autopsy yesterday. We don't have more information. We're trying to put things together, put together a timeline when the decedents were last seen or spoken to.
The media frenzy surrounding the investigation has only added to the intrigue. Every leaked detail, every new theory becomes fodder for speculation. Some outlets have gone so far as to suggest that the couple's passing could be linked to something in their environment, a toxin or substance that went unnoticed for years. Others focus on the human element, wondering if isolation and aging played a bigger role than anyone wants to admit. Whatever the truth may be, it's clear that this is a story with layers that have yet to be uncovered.
It's weird because I knew a lot of them, so they weren't intimidating. Meeting Gene Hackman the first time, was like, but then finding out he was so funny, that was a great thing.
Yeah.
When I saw him, he did that speech in Birdcage where he just says that thing about, and the leaves, and at that point you just slowly nod off. But he did it so, it's a hard thing to make boring hysterical. And he did it.
Yeah.
And he did it perfectly, he had this.
Clint Eastwood, who has remained relatively quiet since his initial statement, is said to be following the investigation closely. Those who know him describe a man deeply affected by the loss of his longtime friend and collaborator. Clint is no stranger to the complexities of human relationships, and he understands better than most that life's endings are rarely tidy. But even he, with all his wisdom and experience, seems at a loss for words when it comes to the strange circumstances surrounding Gene's final days. In a way, it's fitting that their story would end with as much mystery as it began, two men bound by their love of storytelling, now separated by an unfinished tale. As the investigation continues, one thing remains clear. The world isn't ready to let go of Gene Hackman. His legacy, like the questions surrounding his passing, will endure, but what really happened in that Santa Fe home? Was it a tragic accident, a series of unfortunate events, or something else entirely? The answers, if they come, could reshape how we remember this Hollywood legend. Until then, the mystery lingers, leaving us all to wonder how much of a person's story can ever truly be known. Let us know your thoughts in the comments below, and don't forget to subscribe for more updates as we continue to follow this unfolding story.